knocks on the door. And a lady answers the door, and he says, excuse me, I'm feeling very tired and I can't walk any further. This walking stick is so heavy for me. Could you look after my walking stick for me just for a while? Of course I'll look after it. Should I put it just inside your front door? She says, yes, that's fine. You will look after it, won't you? Yes, of course. And while he's standing there, he smells that she's cooking, she's baking. Are you cooking? Oh yes, she says, I'm cooking for a party, making cakes and pastries and biscuits. Oh, very nice. You won't use my walking stick for firewood, will you? You won't burn my walking stick. Oh no, of course that's your walking stick. No, it'll be quite safe. Oh, thank you. I'll come back for it later when it's not so sunny and I'm feeling stronger. So he walks off. She's busy cooking. She's got all her dough and her mixture all there ready. And just before she finishes everything that she's going to bake, she runs out of firewood. And she thinks, I can't let my oven go cold. If I go to the forest to get more wood, it'll go cold. I'll use his walking stick. I only need a little bit more wood. So she goes and gets his walking stick. I'll buy him another one. It's only a walking stick after all. She breaks it over her legs and feeds the fire with his walking stick. Sometime later, he comes back, knocks on the door. You were looking after my walking stick for me. Oh yes, she said. Have you still got it? Ah, she said. Well, you know I was baking. And she explained. Oh no, you haven't burnt my walking stick. Oh no, no, what am I going to do? How can I get home without my walking stick? You said you would look after it. I don't know what to do. And he stands there thinking for a while. And after a moment, he walks straight into her house, into the kitchen, and picks up the clay oven and heaves it out and walks off down the road. And she thinks, whoa, I thought he was an old man. I'm not going to try and tackle him. He's obviously very strong. So he's down the road with this clay oven, and of course it's very heavy. So he decides he must have a rest. And on the side there he sees there's a field, and it's got goats in it, and he sees a lady looking after the goats. So he heaves this clay oven into the field and plops it on the floor, and goes over and talks to her, and says, excuse me, I've been carrying this clay oven, and it's really too heavy, and it's still very warm. Can I leave it for you to look after? And she says, yes, it's fine. Yes, it'll be fine just there. Well, I'll come back. I'll find someone to help me and I'll come back later. You sure it'll be safe? And she says, yes, it's fine. It'll be safe. So he goes off. And while he's gone, she gets her supper out and sits down by the tree and eats her supper. And then falls asleep. The goats, meanwhile, are playing around. These two ram goats are bashing themselves, fighting and chasing around. One of them jumps up and hits the clay oven with its hooves, and it smashes. It's all in pieces on the floor. He comes back, finds her still asleep. So he wakes her up. Excuse me, I left a clay oven here for you to look after. I come to take it home. And she gets up and she said, yes, and it's not there. And they go over, and it's all in pieces on the floor. Is that my clay oven? She says, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. It must have been those goats. You said you would look after it for me, and now it's all broken. What am I going to do? And he stands there thinking, what's he going to do? I know what I'm going to do. And he gets out of his pocket a long piece of string, and he goes and ties it round all the goats, and he marches off out of the field with her goats, pulling them as hard as he can, but they don't want to come with him. Down the street he goes, until eventually the goats will go no further, and in the distance he hears music, a party. There's a big, big house, something really fantastic going on. He thinks, oh, I just goes to the door, maybe they'll look after the goats for me. And he knocks on the door, and the butler, the servant, answers the door. Yes, tie them up, excuse me, top one. If you can find somebody to tie them up round the back, that would be fine. But otherwise we're having nothing to do with them. So he drags them round the back, and as it happens, there was a hook on the wall. So he ties the strings to the hook, and there's some grass and weeds, and happens to be a bucket of water there. So he thinks, oh, they'll be all right till the morning. And he goes off home. In the middle of the night, the party, which is a wedding feast party, is still going on. And the guests don't want to go home. All the food is eaten. You can tell what's going to happen, don't you? and the bridegroom goes to the cook and says, look, the guests don't want to go home. The party's going so well. I don't want you to finish now, so we haven't got any food. What can we do? There was a servant listening, and the servant said, excuse me, sir, I understand that there are some goats round the back of the house. Perhaps we can use those. Because the chef had said, the cook had said, there's no more food in the house. I bought all that you said I should buy. I prepared it all. It's all gone. But there's nothing more. And so when he heard about the goats, the bridegroom said, can you do anything with goats? Yes, said the cook. We can stew them. We can roast them. I can curry them. I can do all sorts of things. Well, let it be done then. So the cook kills the goats, cooks them up, and the feast goes on, and the guests stay, of course, until the early hours of the morning. In the morning, the old man turns up at the house again, knocks on the door. This time, the bridegroom opens the door. Don't know why he's up so early. Anyway, he opens the door, and the old man says, oh, excuse me, you're not the man I spoke to yesterday, but someone here very kindly said that I could keep my goats round the back of the house. I tied them up. Oh, you're the gentleman who brought the goats? Yes, but I come to take them home now. So, are they still there? Shall I go and untie them? And the bridegroom says, well, we had a wedding feast last night and we ran out of food, so I'm afraid your goats are gone. What? My goats? My little goats? I looked after them since they were so small. Oh, how can I live without my goats? Oh, no. I don't know what to do. And he stood there thinking for a moment, and then charged into the house, went up the stairs, into the bedroom, found the bride still in bed, scooped her up, threw her over his shoulder, down the stairs, out of the house, and down the road. The bridegroom thought, I thought he was an old man. I'm not going to try tackling him. I tried lifting my bride up. He must be very strong. She wouldn't fit in the mini. And so he goes off down the street with the bridegroom on his shoulder. Comes to a shop that's open early. Buys a sack. Puts her in the sack. Ties the sack up tight and puts it over his shoulder, and down the road he goes. But of course, although he's had a night's rest, he soon gets quite tired carrying this girl in a sack on his shoulder, and she's no small thing. So he comes to a door and he knocks on the door. And the lady opens the door. Excuse me, I've got this very heavy sack here. I wondered if you could look after it for me, because I can't take it any further. And she said, that's fine, just leave it inside the front door here, it'll be fine. When will you return? Oh, I won't be too long, later today, probably. And so he takes the sack down and puts it inside the front door. You will look after it, won't you? Oh yes, it'll be quite fine. It'll be here for you when you come back. So off he goes. She gets on with her housework. While she's cleaning, washing, she hears, help, 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 let me out. She wonders where it's coming from. She opens the cupboards and looks everywhere for this voice, and then realises the voice is coming from the sack. So she unties the sack, and up stands this bride. What are you doing here? Well, this horrible old man, he came and took me out of my bed and put me in a sack, and he brought me here, and here I am. Well, he's coming back. You better escape as fast as you possibly can. Run through the back of the house and across the orchard she does that. And then the lady picks up the sack, and she goes out the back to the orchard, and she picks up as many snakes as she can. Snakes. Yes, understand? Snakes. And she puts them into the sack, as many, till she has a whole sack full of writhing, wriggling snakes. And she ties it up tight and puts it back by the front door. Later in the day, the old man turns up, knocks on the door, and she opens the door. "I left a very heavy sack here. I've come to pick it up." She says, "Look, here it is. Yeah, there's your sack." So he picks it up. "Oh, lighter than I thought." Puts it on his back, walks off down the street. He goes to the forest. He finds the stump of a tree. And he sits down, puts the sack on the floor, takes out a knife from his belt, holds the sack very carefully, and cuts a little slit in it. And the snakes come out of the hole, up his sleeves, all over him. They bite him, they bite him, they bite him, until he's dead. That's the end of the story. Now, the big question is, was he right to do what he did?